So this is Nicola's topic, so I'm gonna let Nicola start.
Oh, yay. I'm so excited. So we decided that it would be an idea for everybody that's listening to kind of deep dive into the toxic work environment that has been created by the absolutely shitty change management from now what is called X. Also, can we just circle, like, what kind of name is that? That is the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life. Anyway, that's not the point. Change
What if
management.
you have a story around how that name was derived? We'd love to hear it. We're all ears.
I wish I
What?
had insight into that.
Because it is a little bit of a head scratcher to go from Twitter, which has, been part of a lot
A
of people's,
well-known brand.
yeah,
For
and it's
15
been
years.
part of people's social media, and now, yeah.
I heard along.
He's got the dream. He's got the brand recognition dream. I tweet. It's a verb that's in the dictionary and in common usage.
It's like Google. Oh, I Googled it. Like, tell me someone else who's using like Safari. I Safari'd it. I went on a Safari.
Even if you're using a different browser,
you still Googled it.
You still say I Googled it. You don't, right?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
Oh my God, the guys are. Anyway, circling back. So we have the awesome Melissa joining us today. Melissa, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of where you've come from and why we have you on the episode today?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. My name is Melissa Engel. I work in data science. I'm on the program today because I worked at Twitter, which is currently called X, as a senior data scientist. Specifically, I worked in content moderation, even more specifically in political misinformation. So trying to keep the platform free of the kinds of wild sort of lies and misinformations and slanders that really plagued especially the US election in 2016, but which we saw around the world since that time. And it's a real problem. And so there were, as you can imagine, there's lots and lots of dedicated people. I worked on that team. And like about 80% of the rest of the company, I was let go in November when Elon Musk purchased the company.
So maybe let's go into some of let's get into the starting crack out parts. Is how did you end up at Twitter? How did you get the job at Twitter?
Yeah, so I have a Master's of Science in Data Science, which I earned in 2017. Your listeners are probably all aware the rise of these things called LLMs, or large language models. That's what you see with like ChatGPT, OpenAI. Google has their own called Bard. They're sort of proliferating across the world at this point. That's a type of data science called natural language processing. So I worked in that space. Brands have a huge need. Companies have a big need for people who know how to work in that space. If you have a public-facing company, especially one where people can post comments, where people can interact with them, you need to make sure that your site is clean and clear of slurs, of hate speech, of harassment, of misinformation, because otherwise users will flee. And if you have any brands or advertisers interacting with your site, they won't want to have their ads associated with that kind of extremism. So since I graduated in 2017, I'd gradually been working in this space, in the natural language processing space. And so it was a natural fit for me to come over to Twitter.
What was the job interview like? Like, was there anything in there that gave you any kind of red flags that things would change later down the track?
When I came on board, Twitter was this well-established, kind of sleepy company. In fact, I work in Silicon Valley, and I was warned actually by several of my colleagues who work in this space, hey, this is not It's no longer this startup company. It's no longer this hot young company that's moving and shaking. It's a more established traditional company. Are you sure you want to work at this space? Like if you're looking to build your own reputation in the data science world, is this where you want to go? But I really had loved the platform for a long time, and I wanted to work there. Other than that, there were no real red flags. It was a standard tech interview. They asked me the technical questions about data science, machine learning, and they asked me some business related questions. And I think it was a 5-part interview. If I, I had interviewed 5 different times, which
Sure.
is not
wow.
typical in the tech world.
That
I'm like,
seems
that's
like
a bit
lot,
expensive.
though. Yeah, it seems like a lot, but neither Nicola nor I are in the tech space, so maybe that's standard for a tech job.
So oftentimes they'll have you do a take-home assessment. So and this can be from a few days to I worked with this company. I won't mention them. I applied to this company that I won't mention. They were an online marketing space, sort of a Salesforce competitor. It was not
Okay.
Salesforce, and they wanted me to develop this marketing plan for them from a data science perspective. So I developed this plan, I wrote a PowerPoint presentation to present it, and it ended up not getting hired. And you sort of ask yourself, I put like a month of work into it. What's going on? Are they going to use this plan but not pay me?
Do you think they did?
I don't know. It's just
I would love
it's a
to know
really
if they did.
interesting
I would
question.
love to know
So
too.
that's a typical that you get this take-home assessment, which I
Sure.
did at Twitter, and then they'll ask you a tech interview. This is not business, not fit, anything like that. They just want to know that you know your stuff. Then you want to be interviewed maybe by the person who's going to be your boss's boss, maybe your coworkers, and maybe the head of the department or the head of
Sure.
the wherever. So it's a fairly common thing.
So it
Okay.
sounds pretty robust.
Yes.
Okay, because again, we know nothing of data science. I'm like, this is fascinating.
I was like, if someone said natural language
Learning.
I would be like, oh, so you're a speech pathologist. Like,
Yeah, right.
what? Like,
Yeah.
it's so interesting though, like, because you're right. Like,
Very fascinating.
so when you're doing the science behind that, what does that look like? Are you like monitoring for slurs, or are you writing algorithms?
Is it
or
like a
code to,
data
like, figure it
algorithm?
out?
Like, what is it?
Yeah, tell us exactly what it is. Because I have a
So-
feeling a lot of our listeners probably don't
Not
know
like,
either.
are as stupid as we are.
Clueless as we are, yes. No, I
We
think it's
did- I
also a
didn't
very
get.
niche, it's a very niche
It really is.
area, right? So
Yeah.
it's like we probably take it for granted. We just get on these sites and it is what it is, but there are people behind that, like
Definitely.
Melissa, who are doing it. So explain, dumb it down for me, please.
Of course. And you're not dumb at all. This is a really, really complex, as you say, really niche topic. So
Mhm.
No one should feel unintelligent because they don't understand something I
Right.
spent 10 years learning.
Right.
So at a place like Twitter, when I was working there was 30 million tweets every hour. So
Holy
500
shit.
million tweets a day, every day coming at you.
Right.
So some of your users may be familiar with content moderation on smaller, like a Reddit board or a Discord forum or something like that, where maybe somebody's acting up, they're harassing somebody, they just moderate, they just ban that person.
Right.
That level of human level interaction, that type of human level interaction is just not possible on a site with as large and active a user base as Twitter. So there's this need for machine learning processes, for data science. So I write these algorithms that continually search through Twitter, yes, for keywords. Like if somebody uses, I'm not going to say them, but if somebody uses a slur that we all recognize as a slur, that person can be banned immediately. But it's more complex than that, because there's all kinds of extremism, all kinds of speech that you may not want on your site. So you can't just ban keywords. You have to understand context. And this is this field of natural language processing. It's teaching a machine to understand human speech. which is really, really fascinating. So let's say you feed a machine language processing algorithm War and Peace, and you say, what's this book about? And it can summarize that fairly well. The real challenge is when you have a 280 character tweet, a very, very short tweet. So what you do is you see a word that's potentially troubling, and you look outside of that word. You expand to try to understand the context around that word. And what we would do.
So let's say doofus is a slur word, you know, just simple word. So if I were to tweet at Gina and I'm like, you're a doofus, that would get flagged.
Like,
but
yes,
if
I am.
And then Gina tweets, I got called a doofus and I'm sad, essentially that shouldn't be flagged, right?
You are right. You've honed in right there to one of the major problems. Because let's say you have this statement, as I said, I'm just going to use a figure. Hillary Clinton is a
doofus
child. She drinks blood. Of the children.
Ooh, child
she's this
vampire.
horrible person, right?
Right.
She's not. She's not. I'm
No,
just
she's
saying.
not.
We know she's not.
She's not. I'm sorry. That's just
We're
something
we're normal people. We know she's not.
Of course, all your listeners are lovely people. They understand this.
Yes, they do.
But somebody could say that would be definitely a red flag. But a journalist says such and such a politician says, and then they repeat the same thing. You don't want to flag that.
Right.
Or
so that's
I
what
can't believe so and so says this. You don't want to flag that. So
essentially you're teaching a computer to understand the context to then flag what is inappropriate and let the non-inappropriate, like a repetition of the slur, like the repetition of doofus. So that's so
that is like the math behind that, I feel is like my brain doesn't even math that.
The maths don't math for Nicola.
It is
such an interesting, it's such an interesting sort of marriage between linguistics and like computers. So it from your standpoint, it's like AI is great, but it's like you have to teach, right, the computer to understand like what we're asking. So you're probably high in demand now. Wow. You're awesome.
It's a very high in demand field. And there's even, if you'll allow me, there's even another wrinkle, because I worked in, as I said, political misinformation. So despite garnering a lot of headlines, really as a subset of like all speech, all the tweets on Twitter, was a pretty small category. So first of all, you have to identify the tweet as political. So you bucket it into this being a political speech, and then you have to search for it being misinformation. And it was very, very uncommon. Again, it gets big headlines, but it's really not that common. So you really need, can I talk about how the whole process worked, or would you like to?
Yeah, I find it fascinating.
I'm finding it fascinating.
I didn't even know this existed.
Great.
But it does, right? Because it's like we take for granted what you're doing because we just go on these sites and type away, and we don't even know the half of it. So carry on, please.
It's really amazing. First of all, so there's really three, as I say, this three-legged stool. Stool. So number one, you've got, not in any order, they're all equally important. Number one, you have the data scientists, the machine learning engineers, the people who are writing these algorithms. Because as I said, 500 million tweets a day, every day, they never stop. No human workforce in the world is large enough to monitor all those tweets. That's the first leg of the stool. The second leg are the experts. So we were expected to, Twitter operated in the US, in Brazil, in India, Australia, across the world. These countries both large and small, and we were expected to keep those sites clean of, now think about slang and political misinformation, and I follow US politics, but I'm certainly would not claim to be an expert on US politics, and I don't really know much of anything about Indian politics or Japanese politics.
Sure.
But Japan is our second biggest market outside of the United States, and it's huge. Twitter's huge there. And so you have to have experts who understand, hey, I'm seeing, imagine you're in 2017, hey, I'm seeing this political trend called QAnon. You should look out for this. They're saying these things. So they could help us to write our algorithms to better catch all these emerging things. There's all these code words that you can never know, right? And so you need, that's that safety council, which you may or may not have heard of, but there's about 100 or so volunteers who were academics, who were law enforcement people, who were really experts in misinformation and hate speech, who would advise us on what to look for. And the third leg of this stool was, in fact, the human moderators. Because as good as I would love to say my algorithm is, it's going to miss things. And it's going to misclassify things. If you ever try to interact with an AI and it gets something wrong and you try to correct it, you know, let's say on a helpline or something like that.
It ends up in a loop.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like, and you're like,
trust me. So I had a fight. I actually swore at ChatGPT the other day where I was just like, fuck off. And it was like, we don't use language like that. I was like, wow, okay. Like, because I asked it to do something. I was like,
ChatGPT, don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me. No, I asked it to do like a simple task. I was like, can you take this bank of text and turn it into 145 characters? And then it gave me 700 characters. I was like, can you count? And then it gave me 300 characters. I was like, that's still not 145.
Ay, ay, ay.
That's brutal. So
okay, so that is honestly, Melissa, that's the coolest thing. Like, it's
I'm
very,
feeling like
very.
this is like one of the funnest jobs you could have.
I really enjoy it.
Do you? Because
really
whenever I
love it.
hear data science, I'm like, ooh, like I think the word data, and then I think of like data entry, and I'm like, but that's not at all what it is. So, so cool. Okay, so now that we understand better what it is you do, so my question is though, how do you handle those types of things? Like, and I think that this is a precursor to what we're going to end up talking about. How do you handle, like, you know, in our Constitution, in America, in our Constitution, it's freedom of speech. So how do you reconcile that with what it is that you're doing? And you would have to know probably, and is Twitter governed by the United States Constitution? Like, how does that work? Because, right, it's in all these different other countries. So how does that work?
In general, these tech companies follow the laws of the countries in which they are operating. So you definitely have to have lawyers involved. You have to have people who know the local laws and, you know, kind of customs and how the laws are interpreted. You can't feed that into an algorithm yet and have it understand. So that is definitely true. But at the same time, in general, we followed you know, what every company in the United States follows, diversity, you know, DEI practices. You want to make sure your speech is not hate speech. It's not slandering somebody in terms of gender or, you know, sexual orientation or race or any of these protected characteristics. And this was not, you know, we were not run by the government. So we were free to, you know, allow any kind of speech on the site that we wanted. I understand the argument. I've had a lot of conservatives since come up to me and say, hey, I think you should have let this speech on because of, and they would lay out their case. And I said, I can understand why you're saying that. But Twitter was not some sort of outlier. We were just following, if you looked in any kind of corporate culture, that's what we were following, basically, the kind of company best practices.
Okay, so that makes sense.
So if you were working in political misinformation, and please, you know, you say you read a bit of the I read a little bit of the American news, but I live in New Zealand, so, and we're about to go through a voting thing now, and it's not great. So I do not claim to be any expert in any political. I don't even know how the political system works in America. All I know is what I read in the news, right? So
Yeah.
how do how did leading up to the election?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that made it incredibly difficult to, on the three-legged stool. Now you've got more tweets, you've got more users using it to kind of spread the stuff. How do you capture, or how do you get the misinformation before it's spread?
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing, right? So definitely before a midterm election, or before an election in general, political activity would tend to spike, and hence political misinformation would spike. And there were I'm trying to think of this example of, so if I can mention some political topics, no judgment on these topics, this is just some things that we flagged.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was so there's a conflict in Ukraine going on right now. A big one we would see, this such and such a bridge was blown up, and you're depriving all these children of their food, and this would sort of go viral. And these monsters, they've done this, and a little bit of investigation was saying actually this image, this video was taken in 2018 in a different area of the world. And so you could very, very quickly flag something like that. Other times there were outright calls to incitement of hate or violence. There was in another country, again, I don't want to cast aspersions, a mixed faith wedding was proposed of two prominent people. There was a lot of hate speech around that, people who were sort of inciting or calling to violence. Once those go viral, you need to be very, very quick on them to tamp them down. So when your algorithm flags things, you're just extra on the ball for these issues. You're like, okay, here's something. And so you really, really need to be checking all these fires at once.
Now,
So you were probably
everybody
super
just works
busy.
harder.
Well, okay, now coming back to like the workplace environment at this point. So let's say you are in charge of the political flags.
Yep.
Are you on call 24/7? Like, is your phone like ping, flag alert, flag alert?
I mean, yes and no. The secret of working in tech is that you're basically always on call. Hey, I work from home. You can see. But that also means I work in front of my computer. I'm in front of my computer. I can solve issues all the time. So definitely that's a big issue in tech. So basically, I could be asked at any time of the day, but we did have a global workforce. We had people in Japan, in the Philippines. We had people across the world. The actual data scientists working on, there's only about 30 of us for the whole company, which can, this is a whole other issue, but there's only 30 of us for the whole company. So already kind of a small workforce, but we were dispersed fairly globally in an attempt to combat this issue. So there's always people active.
Wow.
Okay, that's interesting. Who
Did
knew?
you guys use Slack?
We use Slack a lot.
We've got a
Nicola
personal
and I have
love-hate relationship with
yeah,
Slack.
we're
Oh,
like
really?
from the
Because
little
at the toxic workplace we came from, Slack was used obviously a lot.
way too much.
And there's just so many conversations that can go over people's heads or misconstrued, or and then there's so many sub channels, and it's just like, it's been over a year since we were at this place, and I still have struggles switching on my notifications.
Okay, so can you take us to give us a little idea of what the company culture was before it was purchased by Elon Musk? Like, tell us what it was like working there for I guess the majority of your career while you were at Twitter, right?
Yeah, for sure. So so I came on and I was this new data scientist. I'm not new to data scientists, but I didn't understand all these, funky terms, impressions and, articulations and annotations and all this kind of stuff, and what what they all meant. And so the people who were there were were extremely generous in volunteering their time to help me understand and to get me up to speed. And, you know, you've got to write these complex algorithms in multiple languages, Python and SQL and PySpark and all these different languages. And, you know, helping me understand that the code that existed, you can imagine a company's been there for 15 years. Some of that code's been around a long time and hard to interpret. And so people were really very generous in helping me understand things. I would say it's a fairly generous and open and collegial environment. You don't get to work in data scientists and, you know, certainly at Twitter unless you have multiple degrees. So everybody there is kind of has a certain level of understanding of the issues that are going around. So I found it to be a very open and supportive environment.
That's awesome. Did
So,
you get,
like,
I'm just curious to know because I'm the nosy neighbor. Were there any cool benefits? Like, did you get extra leave? Was there anything nice?
I worked at Twitter as a contractor. So I technically worked for a different company. This is very common in tech. And this is something I found out also once I left Twitter, that this maybe works differently in different fields and in different countries. So in the US, if you work as a contractor in the tech field, look, I had a Twitter email address, melissaengel@twitter.com. I had a company Slack. I went to all the meetings. I just was treated as this kind of disposable workforce. I didn't get healthcare. I didn't get all these benefits. So yeah, that's basically it. So no, I didn't have no cool perks for me, but I think, you know, other people had certain things.
Yeah, was the office like really cushy though? Was it nice? Like that's
it was very nice. I went in maybe once a week or so, but I mean, I live in San Francisco. You know, it was easy for me to go in, but
yeah.
You know,
but it's also easy
nice
to stay here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
With your cute little puppy over there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were pretty happy with Twitter the way
Oh
it
yeah.
was.
It felt meaningful to work in that environment, to work in political misinformation. I feel like you were helping to make a difference.
Sure.
Were you at Twitter? Because I know nothing. Were you at Twitter during that big like January 6th stuff?
Oh, the insurgency here.
Yeah, because I feel like that would have been a Twitter firestorm.
Yeah, that actually was right before I started, so I did not deal with that.
Oh, you missed it by like.
I can't comment on that. Yeah. But we were still feeling the effects of that. A lot of policies came into place because of that, and of course, our then president Donald Trump was banned from Twitter 2 days after that. After Jan 6th. In that space, he tweeted something like 148 separate violations of our terms of service, incitements to violence, political misinformation, et cetera, But
when that was happening and I read in the news that he'd been banned, in the back of my mind, I saw, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but in my mind, all I saw was like all these Twitter people just like running around like headless chickens going, oh my God, find his account, delete.
Yeah, that's really true because another thing about Twitter is that if an account had over 10,000 followers, it was considered a political event to ban it. So my algorithm could not action.
A person has to actually ban the account.
A person has to.
Yeah.
It goes up above my head to people who make a decision. And so you can see in the Twitter files, I don't know if any of your listeners went through and read the Twitter files, but you can see people like Jack Dorsey, who was then the CEO, and Yoel Roth, like just like agonizing over, should we ban Trump? Should we ban, other US politicians? Like, what do we do here? So yeah, it was a really big decision.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. And then, okay, so I am still fuzzy. When did Twitter even go be put it on sale or whatever? Like, when did the current owners say we want to sell it, or did Elon Musk approach Twitter?
If I can give a sort of abbreviated history of what happened.
Go ahead, yeah.
In January, so this I know some of this stuff because of this recent Wall Street Journal article that came out, but I knew most of it just because of working there at the time. So in January, Elon Musk completed the sale of a lot of his Tesla stock. And so he had all this cash and he was looking to invest it. And he started buying up Twitter stock. Okay. So in January, he purchased about 9% of available Twitter stock. And he was a significant investor at that point in Twitter, which was then a public company. And so he, being a very, very, very public personality, was invited. Like the board said, hey, do you want to be on the board? This would be, great. You want to be on the board? And so he was at first on the board, and he had some personality clashes with Jack Dorsey, Parag Agrawal, and some other people who were there at the time. And so he made the decision he wanted to buy it.
So nobody was actually selling
Twitter.
it. Okay.
Nobody was selling it. This is going to be a hostile. Hostile takeover.
Okay.
He makes the decision he wants to buy it. Although he made the decision he wants to buy it. He offers. He has to put together all this money. So he puts together this $44 billion offer. This staggering amount of money for
that's insane.
A company that, frankly, probably was not worth that much even at the time.
Right. It's worth a lot, but 44 billion, that's a shit ton of money.
That's like a couple of small countries.
Yes. Yeah, that's the GDP.
It's like a number you say when you're like exaggerating. You're like, oh my God, I don't know, 44 billion, right? Like I called you 44 billion times and you never picked.
If he has that much money to throw away on Twitter, can he not just bump me like just half a mil? Like I'm not even asking for a lot, like half a mil.
Why don't we all just get like half a mil?
Like just a little bump. Just a bump.
All right, so it's a hostile takeover.
Jesus Christ.
That's crazy. I don't think I realized that. I thought that he just gave them like an offer they couldn't refuse with that 44 billion.
Yeah. So essentially he offers them this money. There's some resistance in the board. But again, it's something he's able to push through because of who he is. Even Elon Musk doesn't have $44 billion free because most of it's tied up in stock and all this stuff that he owes. So he puts together this loan involving lots of different people, Larry Ellison, Saudi investors, people around the world. He sort of pools his money. When you're rich, people give you money. So he sort of pools his money and he makes this offer and almost immediately starts to back out. Says, I don't want to do this offer anymore. But he's already signed, the ink is already dry. He's already signed this contract that he sort of ironed out this agreement with the board that he's going to buy it. And they say, no, this is the contract. You've made this contract, you need to buy it. And so from about late January all the way through the summer, he's saying he wants to back out of it. All of us workers there were like, what
the
heck
shit is happening here?
That was my next question. How did all of that back and forth?
Because I feel like that would have felt. I feel like that would have felt so unsettled. Like what a horrible environment.
Yeah, it was really tough. It was really tough. It was really hard to know what the future was going to be, and specifically, I worked in content moderation. We all felt like we had targets on our back. Even before he purchased it, he was saying, I don't like the way you do content moderation. I don't like the way you do political misinformation. We banned one of his favorite sites, this Babylon Bee. It's this political conservative humor site. We banned it. He didn't like that. And, but they violated our terms of service. And so we all felt like, oh, this is really bad. And so you're right. It was really unsettled. Nobody really knew what the future was going to be. You can imagine how upsetting that would be to your morale if you're trying to work in that environment.
That would be
and
horrible.
Like everything's up in the air. Yeah, I mean that's like the worst.
Like you're just feeling like shit. Like why are you even bothering why are you even bothering with the moderation when no one gives a shit now?
Yeah.
Well, that's not true because it's still Twitter's terms and conditions from the old guard, right? Nothing's actually changed hands. So
nothing has changed.
Right. You still have to do what you've always done, knowing that the potential new owner of this company doesn't like what you're doing. That's
That's
got to be
right.
the worst fucking feeling.
It was really bad, and there was a lot of internal sort of rearrangement, and went through a major reorg at that time in anticipation of the very scant information we had on what he wanted and how he would like. We tried to consolidate all of our services to sort of better please this person who may or may not be our eventual CEO.
And that's nuts, because it's like then you're catering to one person.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very like tyrannical almost. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, so he ends up not backing out of the deal, obviously, because now we know.
Yeah. So in mid to late October, very, very rapidly, everything switched. He says, no, I'm going to go in. His lawyers advised him, you can't get out of this. They're going to sue you. You're going to lose. There's a $1 billion back out clause that he would have to pay out of pocket. So you can't back out of this. So he goes, fine, I'll get it. So he goes through. And I think that just typifies his style of leadership ever since, just sort of this impulsive, sort of mercurial style of leadership. Decides he's going to buy it. Really quickly, panic sets in at the company. People are freaking out. I've been through takeovers. I've been through mergers. I've been through companies just dying on the vine, these tech startups. And I've never seen anything like it where people are openly disparaging. I don't trust the new owner. I don't trust he's going to do what's right for the company. I've never seen that before, and people really fearful for their jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
also, go ahead, Nicola.
I was going to say, how did you feel? Like, what were you feeling at the time? Because you're a contractor, right? So did you have some kind of like, okay, this is going to get really ugly, but at least I've got the opportunity to eject if needed?
Yeah, I did sort of start to, I was terrified. I mean, I was personally terrified. I did sort of start to look for another job, but it's hard to job search when you're, keep in mind the US
When you're
midterm
doing
elections
full-time
were
work.
coming up. Yeah, exactly. And I just, my then partner and I would just sort of, he was just like sort of commiserating with me and sort of like trying to distract me from this awfulness that was happening. And yeah, I mean, just really terrible. And then, Musk purchases the company on, I believe, October 28th. He goes in, there's this photo of him holding a sink, which I guess one of his poor aides must have scrounged up for him. And he says, he tweets a picture out. I just bought Twitter, let that sink in. So he had one of his assistants.
That is so corny.
Yeah, it's
That's
so corny.
I can't stand. Also, we just did an episode with an ex-celebrity assistant, and when you said his poor aide probably has to get him the sink.
Oh my God!
I want to get a sink like immediately. Like he just decides spur of the moment he needs a
Find
sink.
me a sink. And the poor aide is like, okay, I'm a flatter, like I'm flatting with my flatmates. You know what? I'm just gonna pull it out from my own home,
and I'll like drag it over. Or like it's like in the middle of the night and like he calls up his aide and he's like, I need a fucking sink. Like,
oh my God, this makes me think of, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Consultant, the TV show The Consultant, Melissa.
Yep.
Yes, definitely.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, is he not Elon Musk?
Oh yeah. I didn't never put that together. Absolutely.
He is Elon Musk because he's just like,
that's so funny.
He's like, I need a pistachio churro at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh no.
Give me my pistachio sink. It's got to be pistachio colored. It's got to come from like an Art Deco vibe.
Oh. Yes. Vintage sink. Oh. Okay. So when that happened, when you saw the let that sink, truthfully, I have never seen that because
that's unbelievable.
But it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Famous people are fucking insane.
Yeah, they really
most of them.
Well, I
Especially
don't.
when
Okay, let's dial that back for a second. I don't feel like he's famous. Let's just make that clear. He's just got a fuck ton of money that has made him special.
But he's well known. I would say he's famous, like not famous actor. He's a famous business person. Like
Yeah,
Lee
he
Iacocca
must
was
be.
famous business person. Like there's tons of people.
And
who...
I'm just restating that South Africa does not claim him. We're not
Okay.
claiming him. He can be
All right,
someone else's
so
issue. He's not us.
I guess he's ours now. He's
I think
America's,
he's all
which is
American now.
Your problem.
yeah. our problem. Okay, so when you found that out, first of all, how was the information being disseminated to you? Was it that nobody even really knew what was going on, and then it would come trickling in, or how was the change? Well, we know that the change management was not existent.
Right.
There was non-existent change management, but when you did get fed information, how were you learning it when the rest of the world was learning it? Like, how was that happening?
There was very little that was coming through to us. So there's
Right.
panic, there's scrambling, there's, let's write up our business processes. So, maybe we can communicate to this guy what we're doing, what's happening. And so that went on for about a week where everybody was trying to I was not important enough to get a meeting with him, believe me, but there were people who were head of my department who were trying to get meetings with him, just trying to get FaceTime with him to explain, like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why our job is important. And I imagine that was happening across the company.
Sure.
Yeah. So for about a week that happened, he had one quote unquote town hall with everybody, where he just talked about how hard he was going to have everybody work, and we asked about layoffs, and he said he felt the company was overstaffed at that point. And I know there's a lot. Well, thankfully you all are probably not aware of this, but there's like a lot of arguments, on Twitter, outside of Twitter, about like, hey, he owns the company, he can do whatever he wants, he can make his employees work hard. Yes, he can, but we're all adults. I have 2 children, we all have like lives. What about this work-life balance? You're promising that, hey, you're going to work 60, 70 hours a week and you might get fired. Just imagine what that would do to the morale of your company. Not good things. And we're already highly fractured from this almost year-long now tension
Like
of sort of will he, won't he?
Yes.
Okay, so that actually really is interesting for me, right? Because, we talk a lot about toxic workplaces. And I find that fascinating that now you've got not only a toxic environment unfolding literally in front of your eyes, you can see it coming like a freight train, but now you've got people online pushing that toxic workplace narrative as well, where it's like, oh, tough luck, just fucking pull your socks up and work anyway, you slackers.
Yeah. That's
like people
exactly
who
true.
idolize Elon Musk, like, oh, he's gonna let Trump back on, blah blah blah. And like, just want to say, like, I don't have any say on any of that.
Yeah,
it's above my pay grade. I don't know, whatever.
Exactly.
But the big thing that we heard about was that one of the impetuses for Elon Musk to purchase it was to get Trump back on Twitter and to really sort of uphold the constitutional right of free speech.
Yeah.
So that basically, like, that endangers what you do on so many levels, like personally.
Yeah, exactly. It was something that we were all very, very much worried about, especially after the events of Jan 6, that he's going to let back on these dangerous political actors who are going to continue to undermine the election integrity and to incite violence and to perform this just really awful, amounts of speech and hate that they were spewing onto the site being kicked off.
Wild. Like, but it just undermines all of the work that you and the rest of the data people have done. You've got this years, you said 15 years of algorithm and work and shit that had like blood, sweat, and tears that has gone into creating something that is safe enough or, manageable enough to make things not bad. And here you have someone coming in and going, the work you do, man.
Yeah, it's like,
what
I don't really
ifs.
like this. We're just gonna throw it out.
I'd rather like it in pistachio.
My churro must be pistachio.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, Melissa, because how like that must have made you feel, were you angry? I would have been fucking furious if I were you, like in your
I
position.
was terrified. I was terrified. I wanted to check out. I wanted to curl up on my bed, which I worked right in front of, and just cry. But I didn't know how to handle this stress, and so I am a tech worker. I handled it the very unhealthy way of just working harder. I didn't know what else to do. And
Yeah.
again, this is like October 28th. The US midterms are November 8th. And I thought, look, the only thing I have control over is trying to keep this platform safe of bullshit,
Right.
before this midterm. It's the only thing I can really do at this point. And we had just safely shepherded through the Brazilian election. If your listeners recall, this was,
I remember that in the news. That was weird.
Yeah. And there was like a runoff election. It was a huge thing for us to deal with because we're very, very big in Brazil as well. So yeah.
Wild.
I just
okay.
put my nose down and worked harder. I didn't know what else to do.
Now,
so, I can understand that.
Now I'm going to take a slight left turn for a second.
Okay.
And so I have got a couple of Glassdoor reviews.
Please,
Okay.
I cannot wait. I can't believe you and I didn't think to do this earlier.
Oh, I had already thought this through, buddy.
Okay, good. Let's hear
with my Glassdoor reviews.
Let's hear them, please.
Okay. These are not old reviews. This is August 2023.
Like
so
27th
of August.
Yeah.
2023. Worst place on earth. Pros. Nothing. Not a single thing. Cons. Elon Musk is a horrendous excuse for a person, putting people through hell all the time. The treatment employees are subjected to is equivalent to torture. Also, a rich moron can have his fun. Do your mental health a favor. Quit now.
Oh, that's amazing.
This is not just like a tech person or a person at the bottom, down at the front lines. No, this is management.
Wow.
All right.
So
Then we have another 1-star. The title is Social media specialist.
Okay.
Pros. Cool team. Very fun people. Cons. Not heading in the right direction. I'm gonna quit.
Oh my God, this
That's
is so good. So what is overall on Glassdoor? What's the rating?
It's not great. It's 3.2.
Really? I thought it would be lower. That's probably because you know why? Previously to Elon Musk, it probably was a good
they're pretty good, right?
So that balances it out. We should check back in like a year and see what happens.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's like a 2.
If the overall. So okay, yeah. so with that in mind, so now we're in the process of transitioning into this new empire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, we've got so many TV references here. It's like now we've got Star Wars, we've got the rebellion. Were there people within the organization that were like, actually something needs to be done about this, or was there people in the organization that were like, this is not okay? Like, what did HR do?
Yeah, I think there definitely were. So people at the top, so the entire executive council was fired immediately. Jack Dorsey had left about, 5 months earlier to be replaced with Parag Agrawal. Yoel Roth was there. I think Yasmina Reza, I think, was still there. So I know, just from listening to Yoel Roth interviewed, I didn't have contact with these people, but I know from hearing him interviewed and reading other people, they all pushed back against his decisions to
Mhm.
do these things quite vocally. And I know that people on my team, one person was able to speak with him personally. He'd been there for many, many years, highly respected data scientist, just a brilliant guy, and he was fired after offering his suggestions. People who spoke out on Slack were criticized. Musk had people go through Slack channels to see if people were talking badly about him, and he fired engineers and other people. I know the engineers who were fired if they spoke poorly of him. It's just,
That's just
people,
insane
yeah,
to do that.
It's insane.
Because like any boss, you're a boss for a reason, right? Or you're a leader for a
Yeah.
reason, and you're not going to be able to please everyone all of the time. And he had to
No.
have some kind of modicum of understanding that when it's this like social and it's being written about in the news, and
Yeah.
there's going to be people with feelings. Like he just wanted blind loyalty, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's
You want
terrible.
to be
Okay.
committed to the vision.
So when the executive team started firing or getting fired or leaving or whatever, obviously I would imagine the morale of everyone is in the garbage. It's in the gutter,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yep.
nobody wants, you're either overworking because you're terrified, or you're probably like, fuck this place, I can't wait to quit. Like our dumpster fire, and also like our Glassdoor review. What did they say? It's like it's akin to torture. I can't.
I'll see if I can find. I can see if I can find some more gems.
How did you feel? Like you're like, oh shit, now all of the people who were in leadership positions, like super leadership positions, executives, are being picked off. Like, did you just know it was like a matter of time before you were?
Yeah. Who's going to advocate for me? Who's going to advocate for my department? Who's going to say, hey, this is from 30,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
This is what all the departments do. Who's going to help him understand the company? And as it turned out, there was nobody there, because the way the layoffs, I'm sorry to jump ahead a little bit, but the way the layoffs were conducted is basically he just took a giant sword and split and cut the company in half. Because on my team, I worked in a subset of political misinformation. 2 of the 3 of us were let go. And everybody I talked to, the department just seemed to be cut in half, irrespective of your job, your specialty, what you were actually doing. And then he ordered a complete reorganization of the company at that exact same time. No, I'm going to walk you through, I'm going to have a gradual change. Nothing like that. It's just going to happen in a blink of an eye, and you're going to get aboard my new regime immediately.
And if you don't, I'm going to find out in Slack and fire you.
I will fire you. Yeah, you have to perform high standards. A few, and I can get into this, but I was let go after 2 weeks after he purchased the company. But people who stuck around had to sign a loyalty pledge that they would work hard. Yeah, they had to sign a loyalty pledge. That he promised them that they would have to work hard and that they would be highly rewarded if they did so. But they had to pledge that they would, fulfill these terms.
And were they like unrealistic? Like, what the expectations just shitty?
Yeah, the stated expectations were really incredibly onerous. But I just want people to, what if your boss said, hey, for the next year, we're going to have to put in extra long hours. You might be working nights and weekends. How do you feel? You probably wouldn't. That's not a place you'd want to work at, would you? I wouldn't.
No.
I work hard. By the way, to all your listeners, I work really hard. I
believe it.
I've worked hard throughout my life, but
Absolutely.
I absolutely also need some balance in my life. And
of
we
course,
all do.
Nobody can be the best version of themselves
Okay.
working all the time.
You know what? Let's use our toxic workplace as an example, right? When Gina met me, I was working like maybe 3 a.m. my time to 11 p.m. my time. So there was very little time for work-life balance or sleep. And when she met me, I was a fucking asshole.
this is a different person you see before you, Melissa, than the person I met. And so it's similar to that, right? It's like, if you're going to be working nights, weekends, you like eating, sleeping at your desk or at work or whatever, it's like you're not the best version of yourself. There's no way you can be. Like, if you have to do it like for 1 week because you're like, your deadline is like coming up, and maybe you have like a bunch of last minute things to do, fine. I think anyone can get behind that. But like literally for a year, no.
Yeah.
And did anyone have anything to say about, like, was there any offer to, and this might not have been something that you were offered because you were a contract employee,
Contractor.
but like any therapy or mental health offers for like the people who were staying there to go through the transition? Was there anything like that provided?
No, there was absolutely nothing. There's absolutely nothing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, nothing like that
Oh,
at
these
all.
poor people.
Yeah.
I just feel bad for everyone. So out of the people who out of the people who were there when you were working, how many do you think still exist in your, like, we know like a majority of them got fired, right? But of those people who didn't get fired, who were there when you were there, what percentage do you think is still there?
Of my department of 30 data scientists, highly specialized, not easy to replace, who are working in political misinformation. Of those 30, there were 8 that were left after the various firings.
But then doesn't that then just cause like a ripple effect of shit? Like, now you've got low resourcing, you've got people that are stressed out, they're going to miss things because they're human. You're not going to have the best algorithms spotting bullshit coming through. Like, this is just like a ripple effect of doom.
This is what I'm saying, because these algorithms, we have this idea that machine learning, it's magical, it's understanding you, but really that's not true. You need to continually be updating these algorithms,
like teach it, keep
improving
teaching
their accuracy, especially as the nature of, in my field, I know about, as the nature of political discourse changes. You need to make sure, let's say like 6 years ago, when this Pizzagate scandal, there was a scandal in the United States called Pizzagate, this conspiracy theory. If you did not update your algorithm since Pizzagate and you were still looking for Pizzagate today, you're not going to catch all the new things, all this new misinformation that's out now. So you need people there to continually update. Automation is a nice goal. I actually think it's a really good goal, and we probably were overstaffed. There's a lot of layoffs that have gone on in the tech space since then, but I've been part of change management before. You have a goal, you have a plan, you transition people, you make sure roles are filled. He cut staff in half, ended up even being more than half who quit and were fired long term. He cut services, so all this cafeteria that was closed, all these other things were closed, all these extras were taken away from people. And it's like this austerity plan, like you have to work so hard to succeed at this company where you're given nothing.
So I just
That's
like, I don't understand how I also don't understand how he thinks this can now be successful.
I don't either. And I believe he, a lot of the people who've left, they don't have an option. They are people who are here on H-1B visas, or they are people who he has locked into, like, who are the people he has some amount of power over, and not everybody, of course. But there's a photo of the Twitter workers that he posted about a month after I left. It was posted at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. And he's bragging about how they're all working so hard. And if you look, they're all people who are foreign-born workers, people who are here on H-1B visas, people who are stuck, who are here because they have no choice.
Then they lose their visa.
Yeah, they lose everything. They got to go home. And I know plenty of people who were cut off like this. You got, I think 60 days, 90 days. I'm sorry, I'm not super familiar in the US. And you have to leave and you have to go home if you can't find a job in that time.
Right.
It's just cruel.
That is cruel. And like, even like, I know when we first briefly talked, we were talking about like, it it trickles down to everyone, even the cafeteria workers.
Yeah.
Like, what, okay, so now you don't have on-site cafeteria, and all of those people are now without a job. And like,
They're all without
what's
a
the
job.
purpose of that? Like, don't you want your employees to be fed and healthy?
Exactly.
Like, I'm a mess when I don't eat enough. Like, I am a fucking mess.
Me
I
too.
make terrible
Me
decisions.
too.
Oh my God, you
And I'm
guys can do
cranky.
that. I'm trying to still come up with a word for thirst hangry because I get thirst hangry.
Okay. There's hay.
Thirst hang. Oh my
Angry.
God, I get so angry. Like if I'm thirsty, I start like
No, for me, it's food. I'm like, if I'm not being fed, if I'm not feeding my face in like a, a normal fashion, it's no good.
totally
Okay, so
unrelated. But when you do eat, and you eat something really yummy, do you do the food wiggle?
not usually, unless like I'm out at like a really fancy restaurant, because then I'll be like,
It's-
but my daughter does the food toe wiggle when she's eating something she likes. She like wiggles her toes. She's like,
Aw.
yeah,
do
she's so cute.
you do the food wiggle, Melissa?
I do sometimes.
Right?
Absolutely. Can't help
Sometimes it
it.
has to be like
Yeah.
exceptionally delicious.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I could do it for like a sandwich.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I'm like, ooh, so good.
Well,
Wait.
I get it. Food does bring joy, but like, how fucked up? Back to Melissa's story. How fucked up is that? It's like now you got to go out and like maybe
Find a
I don't
sandwich. Pay for a
get
sandwich
your
with your low
sandwich.
rate
Bring it from
salary.
home, but you're never home because you're fucking working 24/7. So you're just eating air and ice and water. I mean, I don't understand this. How I still, even with the limited amount of information I had, because I don't really get too involved with much in terms of like, I hear about it, I don't form an opinion, but I was like, I just thought like in the back of my mind, how does he think that this is going to be successful? Like
Or
there's already all of,
sustainable.
right, and there's already all this rumbling of exactly what Melissa is now confirming and what the Glassdoor reviews say that are like, it is intolerable to work here. It is intolerable to be under Elon Musk. Like, how does he think he's going to get a return on his investment?
I don't understand because he did not even really reward the people who ended up being loyal to him. There was a woman named Esther Crawford, and I don't mean to put her on blast. She was a brilliant, lovely woman. I'm not criticizing her. She very publicly put her out on Twitter that she was bringing her sleeping bag to work. She was sleeping in the office. She was so dedicated. This is the thing she's advertising publicly. She's everybody saying it. So some people mocked her at the time. Well, 3 months later, she was fired by Elon. He just doesn't reward people making sacrifices, people trying to work under his regime. There's nothing that you're getting.
What does he actually want?
He wants someone
I
just
don't
to,
know.
he just
He wants
like,
results.
a row of people just to suck his dick every morning. Like this is where
Like,
we're
I just don't understand, like, what, okay, so he comes on, he gets rid of, like, some of, whatever, it's now, Trump is reinstated, freedom of speech, it's probably a lot messier on Twitter, which is also now called X.
I can't with the X. Actually, to be honest, the minute I woke up, okay, I don't really use Twitter that much. It's not really my platform to use, but what like cool. Usually had it in the background. The minute I woke up in the morning and my Apple phone had updated and I had a big black X on my phone, I was like, you're done. Delete.
Yes.
We're
done. Thank you very much.
And also, like when we first started chatting with you, Melissa, we said like it's part of like the lexicon. Like it's like I tweeted something, or did you read this tweet? What the fuck are you gonna say now? I X'd something? I mean, like, I'm sorry. What are you saying? Like, where's the forethought? Does he have like people who handle branding and marketing helping him, or is he just coming up with shit and like word vomiting it out? Because that's what it sounds like.
He is the toxic visionary.
When he originally, he had this company called this payments company that he ended up merging with PayPal, Peter Thiel's company, PayPal. So they merged together. He wanted to call it X. And this is like in 1999. So he wanted to call it X.com. So he's had this in his brain for a long time. 24 years,
What?
25
Been
years.
laying dormant,
His
waiting for the
his-
right time to strike.
To exit. Wait, so his kid is also named something ridiculous.
X black
Yeah.
black axolotl.
It's like with like weird like outer spacey letters that
hold
don't
on,
really
I'll Google.
exist.
Give me a second. I will Google it because
It's,
Right?
it's pronounced like Ash 12 or something like that. So
It's
but
ridiculous.
A-
So based
yeah.
on that, he should be like stripped of all of his name giving
Yes.
power.
I think you're
Like,
right.
I just like I keep saying it, but I just can't understand from a business perspective why he thinks what he's doing is going to end up being successful.
It's really
it's
wild.
it's XAEA12, so
Mhm.
X Asher 12.
Huh?
Yeah,
Rolls off the
Okay.
tongue.
just really rolls off the tongue,
Rolls
doesn't it?
right off.
Oh, okay, hold on. Fast forward. I went
Mhm.
to take you all in your minds to a moment in time. We're
Okay.
in this child is 25. He's
Ugh.
at a pub. He's picking up some girls or guys. We don't judge whatever he's picking up. They get home and he's like, yeah, baby. Rawr. And the guy or girl is like, say my name, bitch. And he's like, I don't know how.
Pronounce your name. Or like, what do you think he does when he goes into
You write it
Starbucks?
down for me. Just give me a sec.
I need the
Oh.
pronunciation, the Google translation on that.
Hold on a second. Sorry, what was it again? Hold on. Can we go through that one more time?
I can't. And he like, okay, so this is a hot fucking mess, Melissa. So tell us how you got let go.
Yeah. This is quite a story in and of itself. So
I'm here for
if you
it. Let's
give me
buckle
just a
in.
little bit of time to talk about this. So as I said, I was a contractor. So
Mhm.
all of the full-time employees and everybody in my department except me and one other person were full-time.
Mhm.
So all the full-time employees got an email on Thursday. I guess this would have been November 2nd or something. I don't have the exact
Okay.
date, but
And now we're
Thursday,
also on stress mode because we're like 2 minutes away from your elections.
yes, exactly.
Okay, so we've got double stress. Okay.
The email says, tomorrow morning, there's going to be a reorganization. Tomorrow morning, you're going to get an email in your inbox at 9 a.m. and it's going to have your instructions for your future here at the company. If you are fired, it'll come to your personal email because you won't have a company email. If you still have a job, it's going to come to your company email and it's going to contain your instructions for your new role, basically, your new department.
This is awful.
It's awful. It's
What
terrible.
kind of fucking change management is that?
None.
This is
The
about
answer is none. There is no
3
change management. This is I'm picturing this right out of the Consultant TV show.
Oh my god, this
Yeah.
is
If you're not here in
absolutely
10
like
minutes, if you're not here in 10 minutes, you're done.
You're done.
no, he gave them an hour. If you're not here in an hour, you're fired.
Okay, so
they get this email, and so all of us formed this WhatsApp group outside of Twitter so that we could talk in case we were fired, to commiserate. We all feel awful. And as people here on visas, people have kids. It's just traumatic to lose your job anyway. And so we all formed this WhatsApp group. We're talking. They were supposed to get fired at 9 a.m. Now, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I didn't get this email. I don't know. No idea. So I'm there, but I'm there to support them and to whatever. And so what actually happened is at 11 p.m. local time, people started losing access to Slack and email and being cut off, being booted out of the computers. So that'll tell you how hard we were working. I'm on this WhatsApp, people on the East Coast in New York City. Hey, I just got kicked off Slack. Hey, I just got kicked off. I just got booted off my computer while I was running code. I just got kicked off. And, about half the people. And then it goes to Chicago, which is in our central time zone. I just got kicked off. And as it turns to be 11 in the mountain time zone, I got kicked off. So it's this slow motion tidal wave that's coming across the United States. And I'm like, am I going to be high enough to not drown? Like, am I at high enough ground here to
Right.
escape or not?
Oh, the tsunami's coming for you.
Yes,
So-
yeah.
So
It
they
was
didn't
awful.
even honor the email thing. It was
Nope.
just you lost access.
We got kicked out.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, so then what
And so
happens?
my boss was fired, and my boss's boss was fired as well. Somehow I escaped. I don't know why. I guess because I was a contractor. They just kicked out as well. My boss texted me, I got kicked out. I guess I'm fired. And he has a 2-year-old daughter, and so of course that's awful. And he lived in Seattle, and so it's terrible. And so that's like Friday, that's Thursday night.
Mhm.
And so Friday's a mess. Everybody's scrambling around. The weekend happens. On Monday, I'm still there, but I have no official role. I don't know what my role is because I didn't get this email, but I still have access to all the systems. So again, I just nose down. I'm working hard. I was like, who's my boss? Who do I report to? What am I supposed to be doing? And I emailed the HR rep, and I still have this because she filed a ticket in Jira, which is like a ticketing system.
Yeah.
And it has Elon Musk's name on it, and it says, who does this employee work for? Who does this employee report to? And it has Elon's name on it. And I was like, this is insane.
That's so like you're employed, but you have no idea who you're reporting to. You have no idea
HR
your job
doesn't know who I
description.
report to.
Oh my God. So Nicola, to answer your question, there was no change management, none whatsoever, zero. It
None.
was fear mongering and surprise retaliation, it sounds like. Okay, so you're there, you don't know what
And-
the hell you're doing, then what
Yeah.
happens?
So because Twitter is this public company, it's in the spotlight, people start saying, hey, what about the US election that's coming up? This is outside pressure. Shouldn't we have some people here? And he's like, fine, nobody else in political misinformation is going to be fired for this time. Oh, great. I get like a week.
Yeah,
of
okay,
free-
great.
I don't know. So this week goes by, the election happens, then we do, there's always like collection and mop up and clean up and all this kind of stuff happens. I make it through the week somehow. I go that Saturday, I was at the mall with my daughter, who at that time was 11, and her friend. I'm at the mall. I looked at my phone. I get a pop-up that says one or more of your access tokens has been removed. It's about 7 p.m. And I open it up and I try to get into Slack on my phone. I try to get an email on my phone, and I couldn't. And that's how I was fired, on my phone at the mall at 7 p.m. on a Saturday.
So wait, so you never got an email, did anyone ever reach out to you? I know you were working through a
They
staffing
did.
company. Okay.
They did
yeah.
later, but not till after I was already fired.
Right, but did anyone say so what did they say to you when they reached out to you?
The email said your position at Twitter. And it was just
And you're like, duh, I know I don't have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm
because
not
it-
an idiot. Like you could have
Yeah, I'm not
started
an
with
idiot.
just you're fired. Thank you. Oh my God, you know what would have been really fun? At least they should have taken a bit of piss out of this. Is they should have gotten Trump to just do a you're fired.
fired.
You're fired, Melissa.
So funny. That's so funny.
That maybe you would have laughed at that.
You would have had a chuckle at least.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say also is, like, for that week of uncertainty, as a contractor, I have to submit a time card every week and get it signed. So I
Right.
didn't even know who was going to sign my time card, approve my hours. I contacted my employment company and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Am I going to get paid for this week? And they said, well, I don't know. If we get paid, you'll get paid. And I was like, then you'd better make sure that you get paid.
Yeah.
Because
Did you get
I
paid?
didn't get paid. I did end up getting paid. I will say.
Okay,
I did
good.
end up, but I didn't know. I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
that
And
was-
most
Yeah.
Americans, regardless of their salary, are still living, especially in our generation, are still living paycheck to paycheck.
Absolutely.
And San Francisco is more expensive than Manhattan to live. And I mean, I'm sure you're making a good amount of money, but when you're living in like the most expensive place,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I mean, I remember right before I moved to Florida when I was in New York still in Manhattan, I was probably making close to 200,000 and I was still pretty poor.
Yeah.
Like I was still like living paycheck to paycheck, you know?
Yeah.
It's difficult. And do you know if the full-time employees were given any kind of severance or were they just fired and that's it?
So they were given 3 months of severance.
Okay.
And although there were some issues with some people not receiving it on time, to my knowledge, most of them have received that 3 month severance by now, although some haven't.
Right.
But I, as a contractor, I got nothing.
Right.
I got no severance. My company sent me a box of Ghirardelli chocolate, which Ghirardelli's nice, but it's not 3 months of severance.
You're in San Francisco. I mean, Ghirardelli's everywhere.
It's
They should have
everywhere.
imported something different, right? Like that you wouldn't have access to.
Stickers from New Zealand.
Or
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
or something like even, I don't know, something
Some
else. I
Belgian
feel like,
chocolate.
yeah. Or like even, I'm trying to think, is there like a New York chocolate place that everyone loves?
Mm.
I can't think of one, but yeah, that's kind of tacky. I mean, I'm
It
sure
was
you ate
tacky.
it. It's
Of
not
course.
tacky. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we've gone through this whole shitty
Yeah.
change management process.
Yeah.
Shit sucks. Do you still have friends there? Do you still have people you chat to?
Yeah, so we still have this WhatsApp group. There's still people who are there. We don't chat as much, but we still do chat. People post updates every once in a while. But yeah, there's still people there. I mean, again, of the 8 people who are left, 6 of them are here on H-1B visas. So they don't really have a choice of like, hey, maybe I should look for another job. It's extra difficult if you're here on an immigrant visa.
Yeah.
And what about you? Are you doing okay now?
Yeah, so like you said, it's this incredibly expensive place to live. Most of my adult life, I've worked 2 jobs. I teach part-time on the side. So yeah, I mean, for this is like November 12th that I was let go, and I'm like, the holidays are coming. Nobody hires at the end of year anyway. I'm like panicking. I'm trying to I took my kids to see a movie, and I just remember having a panic attack in the movie theater. Like, I'm not gonna be able to afford to continue to pay rent for this place, let alone to provide my children a nice Christmas.
Sure.
Like,
That's
and
terrifying.
I'm like panicking, and like, you don't want to show your children, of course, you want to be that good, strong parent for them. And it was a brutal time, to be frank, but like, fortunately I did get a job. My skills are in demand, so I was able to get a job. I'm employed now. I'm doing great at my new job.
Great.
And is there any chance of them being taken over by Elon? Because I'm like, now it's like a toxic like bacteria. It's just
That's
coming.
just spreading.
It's
Spreading
just coming
everywhere.
for you.
Oh, God. Well, I hope not. We work with medical universities, so I don't think he's interested in that.
He's probably not. And I
Yeah.
kind of can't wait for him to lose $44 billion when he runs Twitter, or X, I should say, into the ground. Because that's the only way I can see this ending.
He
I don't
just announced
understand.
that his ad revenue was down 60%.
Oh, please. He gave away blue ticks for like $2.
Yeah. 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 It's
I
not
just
surprising.
and is he unilaterally making decisions for X/Twitter?
Yeah, people who talk about, of course, there's maybe not, of course, but there's a new CEO, Linda Yaccarino. She comes from NBC. She has ad experience. He brought her on because she's all these relationships with advertisers, and he wanted to bolster up somebody, but he very much remains in charge. It's very obvious. He's the public face of the company. He's tweeting out directives, and people who do work there talk about, he's just this incredibly mercurial director and owner, and he can be incredibly charming if he wants to be, but he turns on a dime, and he's dark Elon.
And that's the worst kind of leader to have, because you never feel safe in that environment, because you're like, oh, he likes me today, and then you're like, I wonder if he's gonna like me tomorrow, or on a bigger scale, of course, but it's I grew up with someone who was very much like that, like would switch on a dime, and it's like it's traumatic. It's traumatic to be around someone who you have to kind of try to guess their mood, guess what you can say, guess what you can't, guess what you do, what you don't do. It is like I feel bad for all the people who stay there.
I do too. I really do.
Yeah.
He's
So do
obviously a
you think
brilliant guy, but just no
no, I
people.
know, but maybe he's just not a good leader,
Yeah.
I
right?
don't think
So
he's
like
a good leader at all. I think he
No.
has been pandered to because he's got a whole fuck ton of money to.
I think so too.
Oh my god, he is literally the guy from The Consultant.
no, he is. He is. They are one and the
That's so
same.
funny.
And he's not a good leader. That's not gonna you're not gonna get
Mm.
the best out of people. You're not gonna get the best out of anything. And now you're in a situ where you're just going to see a decline in morale. You're going to see a decline. You see more staff quitting,
But that's why I'm
leaving.
like, how does he think this is going to be successful? Like, it's just like it's like the company's like spiraling the drain hole. It's like, I don't
The
know.
sink.
The
It's
sink. Oh, the sink. Let that sink in.
The sink. That's so funny. I
sinking.
didn't make that. Um,
So now that you're on the other side of it and you went
Mhm.
through that painful time, but you're now gainfully employed, do you think knowing what you know now, looking back, would you have done anything differently? Would you have quit of your own accord, or like is there anything you would have done differently?
Got really close to my coworkers there, and I think again, I still believe in what we were doing. I still believe in keeping it safe from political misinformation. I think that's a good thing that we were doing. So it's hard to say that I would, have given that away, but I think for my own sanity and my own safety, I would have just, hey, this person doesn't care about me. He clearly doesn't care about my job security. I'm going to devote myself full time to looking for work. I would have just tried harder to get another job
Yeah. Yeah.
instead
But
of
you don't
doubling
know
down
that
and
one.
working harder.
Yeah, because you don't. But in that period, you're so stressed. You're like, I don't know what's
Yeah,
happening. I'm being told
yeah,
new things every day. Like nobody knows who's coming and going. Who
yeah.
knows how you would handle it?
Who
Like
knows?
unless you're in it.
Yep.
But yeah, but looking back, I could see like yeah, you probably should have devoted your entire time to finding a new
Yeah.
job. Yeah.
Yeah.
But are you happy that you had the experience of working at Twitter?
I really love having worked at Twitter. I've used the platform since like 2009, a long time
Mhm.
user. I can hardly stand to be on there anymore. I used to use it a lot. It's painful to be on now, but I'm glad.
Have you moved over to Threads?
I've been on Threads. I've been on Blue Sky, Post, Tribal, all the ones that are out. Yeah, they're just not. It's not. None of them's quite there
Not the
yet. But
same? Yeah.
no, we'll see.
That's because there's not data scientists like yourself
There's
there.
not
They
data
probably
science.
are, but
That's
they're
right.
not you.
Yeah, that's
They're
right.
not you.
Oh.
Okay. Well,
I feel like we've had another school lesson today where we're like, we came into this not knowing what data science was. I feel like we've left still not knowing, but having some understanding.
well, no, I
Absolutely.
mean, I knew what data science was. I actually recently did a course on it just so I wasn't
Ooh.
antiquated with certain things, but I would not have known that super niche that you are in, Melissa. It's
Yeah.
so interesting. And it's like I
Yeah.
said previously, like we go on these sites and things are being cleaned up and we don't even know that that's happening behind the scenes,
Neat.
and it's like there's
Right.
a whole team of people who are making sure that it's safe for you to post, your thoughts on Taylor Swift or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And that she's a
Yeah.
doofus, because doofus is now our flag word.
Our slur word. Yeah, but I mean it's true. It's like I wouldn't have even have thought of like, oh, this is just safe. I can say what I want to say about whoever,
Yeah.
or what I did today or whatever. And you don't think about what really goes behind it. So it's been very insightful for me. And I thank you for explaining it so like beautifully because I totally got what you were doing once you got there.
Great. Well, yeah, I mean, I love to talk about data science and I'll get enough opportunities too. So thank you for being great listeners.
You're welcome.
Well,
Is there
we
anything?
really.
Yeah, go ahead, Nicola.
I was gonna say we really appreciate your time today because it's just I feel like this has been a great chat.
It has.
I feel like
it
it's
was
been very
fun.
insightful.
Yeah, it was fun. Is there anything you want to say to anyone, or how can people find you if they want to hire you or have you come in and
So
consult and not be a
I'm still
terrible consultant?
occasionally, yeah,
What?
yeah. I'm still occasionally on Twitter am at Mingle, Melissa Engel, Mingle 74.
Oh
I
my
love
God,
that.
I
stop
know,
it.
so
Yes.
funny. You can find me there. Go find me at LinkedIn. I'm happy to take on consulting projects. And yeah, I'm just sort of generally available to offer my expertise as needed. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
great.
awesome.
Well, we will put all of that information in this show notes so
Great.
people who might hear your lovely tweet, no, your voice will can reach out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
This has
so
been
much.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
thank you. Um,
Um,
I'm not gonna ever use Twitter again. I used it for like
yeah,
once like,
we
ago,
probably
and I've
shouldn't.
never. Yeah, no, I'm not.
We probably shouldn't.
It'll be interesting. Maybe in like a year from now, if we're still doing the podcast and Twitter X whatever is in a different like, maybe we have to invite you back on and see what
Yeah.
happened between now
I
and
think
then.
it
That
can
would be
still be
interesting.
saved. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
It'll be saved if Elon Musk gets on one of his rocket
If he gets
ships
out
in
of his
June.
own way, it'll
I think so.
probably be saved.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I think if he extracts himself and hires appropriate people, it's like exactly what we had in our toxic workplace. If the
Mhm.
owner got out of her own way, the
Mhm.
business would be totally successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just as long
absolutely.
as you're hiring people with the correct experience and understanding of how to get your business to where you think it should be.
And
If you
treating
don't do
them
that,
like
you're dead in the
actual
water.
people.
Right,
That's
actual
what it's
people,
all
not
about.
like friends and family. But yeah, if you're not doing that, you're dead in the water. So let's see what happens.
Let's
Watch
see.
the space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. It was such a
Okay.
joy and so insightful, and we will chat with you later.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Let's Break Up, Toxic Workplace Stories. If you enjoyed our candid conversations and insights, don't forget to hit that like button, follow us on social media, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform.